So you want to own a funeral home. To most people, it sounds like one of the most unusual businesses you could ever own. Every day, you're helping families through one of the hardest moments of their lives. But behind every funeral service is a business managing employees, vehicles, expensive equipment, strict regulations, and hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars in assets. Despite what many people believe, owning a funeral home isn't a guaranteed path to wealth. In this video, we're going to build a funeral home from the ground up. We'll choose the perfect location, construct the facility, equip it with everything it needs to operate, follow what happens behind the scenes from the moment a family makes their first phone call, break down exactly how funeral homes make money, uncover the hidden costs almost nobody thinks about, explore the biggest challenges facing the industry today, and finally, answer one question. Is owning a funeral home actually a good business? We'll break everything down in 7 sections. This is section 1, getting started. Every successful funeral home begins with trust. Unlike a restaurant, hotel, or coffee shop, people don't choose a funeral home because it has the nicest decorations or the lowest prices. They choose one because they believe their loved one will be treated with dignity, professionalism, and respect. That trust takes years to build and only one mistake to destroy. Before you can help your first family, you need the right location. In the United States, funeral homes are usually built in established communities with easy access to hospitals, churches, cemeteries, and major roads. Families are already dealing with one of the most difficult days of their lives, so the last thing they need is a long drive across town. Convenience isn't just good business, it's part of the service. Once you've found the perfect property, the paperwork begins. You'll need to register your business, secure local permits, pass building inspections, meet health and safety standards, and comply with state regulations governing funeral services. Many states also require licensed funeral directors to oversee operations, and depending on the services you offer, licensed embalmers may also be required. These aren't optional requirements. Violations can lead to thousands of dollars in fines, lawsuits, or even the loss of your license to operate. After months of planning, permits, and approvals, you're finally ready to buy the property. Maybe it's an older funeral home that needs a complete renovation, or maybe it's an empty lot where you'll build an entirely new facility from scratch. Either way, this is where your investment truly begins, because buying the land is only the first check you'll write. Turning that property into a fully functioning funeral home is where the real money starts to disappear. Section 2 begins now. You've bought the property. Now comes the part that turns a piece of land into a real business. Building a funeral home is far more expensive than most people expect. Unlike a typical office building or retail store, nearly every part of the layout is designed around helping families during one of the most emotional days of their lives while allowing staff to work efficiently behind the scenes. Construction begins with the foundation. Excavators dig deep into the ground before concrete is poured to support the entire building. Once the foundation is complete, steel beams are lifted into place, creating the skeleton of the funeral home. Over the next several months, walls, roofing, electrical systems, plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and fire protection systems are installed one step at a time. From the street, it may look like an ordinary building, but inside, every room serves a specific purpose. The first room families see is the reception area. This space sets the tone for their entire experience. Comfortable seating, soft lighting, flowers, and a welcoming front desk all help create a calm environment from the moment someone walks through the door. Next is the arrangement room. This is where funeral directors sit down with families to discuss every detail of the service. Together, they'll decide between burial or cremation, choose a casket or urn, schedule the ceremony, arrange transportation, select memorial products, and complete the required paperwork. These meetings often last several hours because every family's wishes are different. Many funeral homes also include a chapel. Some are small enough for intimate gatherings, while others can seat hundreds of guests. This room hosts funeral services, memorial ceremonies, and celebrations of life, making it one of the most important spaces in the entire building. Behind the public areas are rooms that visitors rarely see. There are private offices for staff, secure records rooms, storage areas, employee workspaces, and preparation rooms where licensed professionals perform their work in accordance with state laws and health regulations. Every area is designed to balance efficiency, privacy, and respect. Outside the building, the investment continues. A large parking lot is essential because dozens and sometimes hundreds of guests may attend a single service. Landscaping, lighting, sidewalks, and accessibility features all need to be carefully planned. Then come the vehicles. Most funeral homes own at least one hearse, but many also operate additional vans or utility vehicles used to transport flowers, equipment, and staff. Every vehicle requires insurance, maintenance, fuel, and regular replacement over time. Once construction is complete, the building still isn't ready to open. Furniture must be installed, computers connected, security systems tested, phones activated, decorations arranged, and every room prepared before the first family ever walks through the front door. Months after buying the property, your funeral home is finally complete. The lights turn on, the doors open, and everything is ready. Now comes the hardest part. A beautiful building means nothing if families don't trust you enough to call when they need help the most. Section 3. The first phone call. Months of planning, construction, permits, and preparation have led to this moment. The building is finished. The staff is ready. The hearses are parked outside. Every room is prepared. Now the phone rings for the very first time. Unlike almost every other business, a funeral home never knows when its next customer will call. There are no appointments made weeks in advance, no holiday rushes, and no predictable sales seasons. Calls can come at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why many funeral homes operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. The funeral director answers the phone with a calm voice, knowing the person on the other end is often experiencing one of the worst moments of their life. The first few minutes are about gathering information, not selling anything. The director asks for the name of the deceased, where they're currently located, whether the death occurred at a hospital, nursing home, hospice, or private residence, whether a physician or medical examiner has been involved, and who the legal next of kin is. Every answer determines what happens next. As the conversation continues, another employee begins preparing the removal team. They gather equipment, confirm the location, and dispatch a vehicle immediately. In many cases, the goal is to arrive within an hour, although travel times vary depending on distance and local circumstances. If the death occurred at a hospital, the process is usually straightforward because medical statutes have already completed much of the required documentation. But if the death happened at home, there may be additional steps before the funeral home can take the deceased into its care. Local authorities or a medical examiner may first need to authorize the release. Once everything is approved, the removal team carefully transports the deceased back to the funeral home. Every movement is handled with professionalism, dignity, and respect. For families, this may only last a few minutes. Behind the scenes, however, it marks the beginning of a process involving dozens of carefully coordinated steps. When the vehicle arrives, staff members complete identification procedures, log personal belongings, verify paperwork, and securely transfer the deceased into the preparation area. Accuracy is critical. Even a single paperwork mistake can create serious legal problems and permanently damage the funeral home's reputation. While one team handles the logistics, another stays in contact with the family. Together, they schedule an arrangement conference where every detail of the funeral will be planned. Burial or cremation, the type of service, transportation, flowers, music, printed programs, obituary notices, and dozens of other decisions will soon need to be made. This is also the moment when the business side of the funeral home begins. Every choice the family makes affects the final cost of the service, and every service offered becomes part of the funeral home's revenue. But where does that money actually come from? Section 4. How funeral homes actually make money. Your funeral home is finally open for business. The phones are ringing, families are walking through the front doors, and now it's time to answer the question almost everyone has been waiting for. How does a funeral home actually make money? Most people think the answer is simple. A family pays for a funeral, the service is held, and the owner keeps the money. In reality, that's only a small part of the story. Modern funeral homes generate revenue from multiple services, and understanding how those services work is the key to understanding the entire business. The largest source of revenue usually comes from the funeral service itself. Every family has different wishes, different traditions, and different budgets, which means every service can look completely different. Some families choose a simple private ceremony with only a few close relatives, while others plan a large public service with hundreds of guests. The more customized the service becomes, the higher the total cost. Another major source of revenue comes from caskets. Funeral homes typically offer a wide range of options, from simple models costing a few $100s to premium hardwood or metal caskets that can cost several $1,000s. Families choose based on personal preference, religious beliefs, and budget, and the funeral home earns revenue from each sale. Burials also involve much more than simply purchasing a casket. Families may pay for transportation, professional preparation of the deceased, use of the funeral home's facilities, coordination with the cemetery, staff during the service, and the funeral procession. Every service adds another piece to the final bill. Over the past several decades, cremation has become increasingly common across the United States, and today it accounts for more than half of all funeral arrangements nationwide. Although cremation is often less expensive than a traditional burial, it still creates multiple revenue opportunities. Families may purchase an urn, hold a memorial service, rent the chapel, request transportation services, or choose customized keepsakes for relatives. Funeral homes also generate income by selling memorial products. These can include flowers, prayer cards, guest books, printed programs, memorial videos, framed photographs, personalized jewelry, and dozens of other items that help families remember their loved one. Individually, these products may not seem significant, but together they become an important part of the business. Transportation is another source of revenue. Funeral homes often charge to transfer the deceased from hospitals, nursing homes, hospice facilities, or private residences. They may also provide hearses for the funeral procession and additional vehicles for transporting family members or flowers to the cemetery. Some of the most valuable customers are people who aren't planning a funeral today at all. They're planning one years in advance. These are known as pre-need funeral plans, where customers pay for funeral services long before they're ever needed. For families, it removes financial uncertainty during an emotional time. For the funeral home, it creates future business and provides a steady stream of revenue over many years. Many funeral homes also charge for additional professional services that most people never think about. They prepare legal documents, help obtain death certificates, coordinate with cemeteries, communicate with churches, arrange military honors for veterans, organize obituary notices, and even live stream services for relatives who can't attend in person. Every additional service provides convenience for the family while creating another source of income for the business. At first glance, it might seem like funeral homes make enormous amounts of money from every service they provide. But that's where most people are wrong. A large percentage of every dollar collected immediately goes toward employee wages, vehicle maintenance, insurance, utilities, property taxes, building maintenance, equipment, office expenses, suppliers, and countless other operating costs. The price a family pays is not the same as the owner's profit. The most successful funeral homes don't become successful because they charge the highest prices. They become successful because they build trust within their communities, provide exceptional service, and earn a reputation that families recommend for generations. In this business, reputation is one of the most valuable assets you can own, because one satisfied family may eventually recommend you to dozens of others. Now that you understand where the money comes from, it's time to see where it goes. Running a funeral home is far more expensive than most people realize, and the hidden costs can quickly eat away at your profits.
Section 5. The hidden costs. By this point, your funeral home is finally generating revenue. Families are walking through your doors, services are being held every week, and money is flowing into the business. From the outside, it might look like you've built a highly profitable operation. But what most people never see is how quickly that money starts flowing right back out. The biggest expense for most funeral homes is payroll. Running a funeral home isn't a one-person job. Depending on the size of your business, you'll need licensed funeral directors, embalmers where required, administrative staff, drivers, maintenance workers, and employees who are available around the clock. Death doesn't follow a schedule, which means someone often needs to answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including weekends and holidays. Even when no services are taking place, you're still paying salaries. Then there's the building itself. A funeral home is usually much larger than people realize, and keeping that building operating isn't cheap. Electricity powers lighting, heating, air conditioning, offices, preparation rooms, security systems, and refrigeration equipment where required. Water, internet, phone systems, cleaning services, landscaping, and routine maintenance all become recurring monthly expenses that never stop. The vehicles create another major cost. A hearse may only be driven for a few hours during a service, but it still requires fuel, insurance, maintenance, registration, and regular cleaning. Many funeral homes also own additional service vehicles, and every one of them adds another layer of operating costs throughout the year. Insurance is another expense that most people overlook. Funeral homes typically carry commercial property insurance, liability insurance, vehicle insurance, workers' compensation coverage, and other policies designed to protect both the business and the families it serves. Those premiums can add up to thousands of dollars every year. Then there are the supplies. Caskets, urns, flowers, memorial products, office materials, preparation equipment, cleaning products, protective gear, furniture, computers, and countless everyday items all have to be purchased long before they generate any revenue. You're constantly spending money just to keep the business fully stocked and ready for the next family that walks through the door. Marketing is another cost that surprises many new owners. Just because you open a funeral home doesn't mean families automatically know you exist. Many businesses invest in professional websites, local advertising, community sponsorships, search engine optimization, and online reviews because reputation is one of the biggest factors influencing where families choose to go. Property taxes can also become a significant annual expense, especially if your funeral home is located in a growing community where commercial real estate values continue to rise. On top of that, you'll have accounting fees, legal expenses, software subscriptions, business licenses, permit renewals, and regular inspections that keep the business compliant with state and local regulations. Eventually, equipment begins to wear out. Vehicles need repairs, roofs need replacing, parking lots develop cracks, furniture becomes worn, computers become outdated. Every few years, you'll find yourself making another major investment just to maintain the same level of service your customers expect. This is why so many people misunderstand the funeral business. They see the price of a funeral and assume the owner is keeping all of that money. In reality, every dollar has a destination before it ever becomes profit. Payroll, utilities, insurance, taxes, maintenance, supplies, and operating expenses all take their share first, and only what's left belongs to the business. The funeral homes that survive for decades aren't always the ones charging the highest prices. They're the ones that carefully control expenses, manage their cash flow, maintain an outstanding reputation, and consistently provide excellent service to every family they help. Even if you manage your finances perfectly, there's one thing you can never control: the industry itself. Consumer preferences are changing, competition is increasing, and funeral homes today face challenges that didn't exist just a generation ago. Section 6 begins now.
Section 6. The biggest challenges. By now, your funeral home is fully operational. You've invested hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars into the business, built a professional team, and earned the trust of your community. But no matter how well you run your company, there are challenges that every funeral home owner eventually faces. The first challenge is competition. Most cities already have several established funeral homes, and many of them have been serving local families for decades. These businesses often rely on generations of loyal customers, making it difficult for a new funeral home to convince families to choose someone they've never worked with before. Building a reputation takes years, but competing against businesses that have been trusted for 50 or even 100 years is one of the hardest obstacles any new owner will face. The second challenge is changing consumer preferences. For decades, traditional burials were the standard across the United States, but that trend has changed dramatically. Cremation has become increasingly popular because it is often less expensive and gives families more flexibility when planning memorial services. While funeral homes still earn revenue from cremation, the average value of those services is often lower than a traditional burial, forcing many businesses to adapt their pricing and service offerings. Another challenge is rising operating costs. Employee wages continue to increase, insurance premiums continue to rise, fuel prices fluctuate, utilities become more expensive, property taxes increase. Every year, the cost of running a funeral home becomes higher, even if the number of families you serve stays exactly the same. Labor shortages have also become a growing concern. Licensed funeral directors and embalmers require specialized training, and finding experienced professionals can be difficult in many parts of the country. When qualified employees are hard to find, businesses often have to offer higher salaries to attract and retain staff. Technology is creating new expectations as well. Many families now expect online planning tools, digital memorial pages, live-streamed funeral services, electronic paperwork, and fast communication. Funeral homes that fail to modernize risk losing younger families who expect the same level of convenience they receive from every other business. Reputation has always been important, but today's internet has made it even more critical. A single negative review can be seen by thousands of potential customers. Because families are making one of the most emotional purchasing decisions of their lives, online reviews often carry enormous weight when choosing a funeral home. Economic conditions can also affect the business. During periods of inflation, families may choose simpler funeral packages or fewer optional services to reduce costs. While funeral homes will always provide essential services, the amount each family spends can change significantly depending on the economy. Perhaps the biggest challenge of all is balancing business with compassion. Unlike most industries, your customers aren't celebrating birthdays, buying new homes, or planning vacations. They're experiencing one of the most difficult days of their lives. Every conversation requires patience, empathy, and professionalism. Families will remember how they were treated long after they forget the price they paid. The funeral homes that survive for generations understand this better than anyone else. They don't simply sell services, they build trust, support families during incredibly difficult moments, and become part of the communities they serve. After everything we've built, every dollar we've invested, and every challenge we've faced, there's only one question left to answer. Was owning a funeral home actually worth it?
Section 7. Was owning a funeral home worth it? After everything we've built together, we've finally reached the question that started this entire journey. Is owning a funeral home actually a good business? The answer isn't as simple as yes or no. From the outside, funeral homes can appear incredibly profitable. Every family eventually needs funeral services, demand never completely disappears, and unlike many industries, this isn't a business that becomes obsolete because of changing trends. There will always be families who need professional guidance during one of the most difficult moments of their lives. That stability is one of the biggest advantages of the industry. But stability doesn't automatically mean easy money. Throughout this video, we've seen just how much it costs to build a funeral home, hire qualified staff, purchase specialized equipment, maintain vehicles, comply with regulations, and keep the business operating every single day of the year. Long before the owner earns $1 of profit, hundreds of expenses have already been paid. Success in this industry isn't determined by how expensive your funeral packages are. It's determined by how much trust you've earned within your community. Families rarely choose a funeral home because it offers the lowest price. They choose the business they believe will care for their loved one with compassion, professionalism, and respect. That reputation becomes your greatest competitive advantage. Some funeral homes have served the same communities for more than 100 years. They've survived recessions, changing consumer preferences, rising costs, and increasing competition because generation after generation continued recommending them to friends, neighbors, and family members. In many cases, that trust is worth far more than any advertising campaign. Of course, the business isn't perfect. Cremation continues to grow across the United States, reducing the average value of many traditional funeral services. Operating costs continue to rise almost every year. Finding licensed professionals is becoming more difficult, and customer expectations continue to evolve as technology changes the way families plan funeral services. Owners who refuse to adapt often struggle to compete. The businesses that continue growing are usually the ones investing in better customer service, modern technology, stronger community relationships, and smarter financial management while never losing sight of what matters most, helping families during one of the hardest days of their lives. And that's what makes this business different from almost every other industry. You're not simply selling a product. You're not convincing someone to buy something they don't need.
You're providing a service that carries enormous emotional responsibility, and every decision you make directly affects families during moments they'll remember for the rest of their lives. If you're looking for a business that's easy, stress-free, or capable of making you rich overnight, a funeral home probably isn't the right choice. But if you're willing to invest years building trust, managing a highly regulated business, treating every family with compassion, and accepting the responsibility that comes with serving your community, owning a funeral home can become both a meaningful business and a financially sustainable one. So, was owning a funeral home worth it? For the right owner, absolutely. Not because it's the easiest business to run, not because it's the cheapest business to start, and not because every funeral generates huge profits. It's worth it because trust, professionalism, and compassion create something that money alone can never buy. A business that families continue choosing for generations. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see the business behind more industries, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.